Jobless fiance has to borrow money to go on a boys' trip. But today he calls me and demands I bail him. The phone buzzed like a hornet trapped in a jar, and I knew it was him before I even looked. My heart sank, not with love, but with the weight of dread that had become all too familiar. 6 months of unemployment, and Jake still thought he was the king of our crumbling castle. I'd been scraping by, working double shifts at the diner to keep our tiny apartment from slipping into foreclosure. The smell of grease clung to my clothes, a constant reminder of the sacrifices I made while Jake lounged on the couch, scrolling through job boards without ever hitting apply. Yet somehow he'd found the audacity to ask me for $500 last week, money I didn't have for a boys' trip to Vegas. A weekend of poker, booze, and who knows what else. While I counted pennies to cover the electric bill, I'd borrowed from my sister, against every shred of pride, to keep him happy, to keep us from unraveling. But today, the phone call came, and it wasn't a thank you or an apology. It was a demand. Lila, you need to wire me $2,000. Now, Jake's voice crackled through the line, urgent and unapologetic. I froze, the dish I was washing slipping from my hands into the soapy water. I'm in deep. Okay, I messed up at the tables. They're not letting me leave until I pay. My blood boiled. I could picture him, red-faced and sweating in some seedy casino back room, surrounded by guys who looked like they'd stepped out of a mob movie. You messed up, I spat, my voice shaking. Jake, I'm working myself to death while you're out gambling money we don't have. How could you be so reckless? It's not my fault, he snapped back. I was on a hot streak, and then it just turned. You don't get it. Lila, I was trying to win us something big, something to get us out of this hole. The hole, the one he dug deeper every day with his excuses and inaction. I'd met Jake 3 years ago at a friend's barbecue, his easy smile and quick wit charming me into believing he was a man with ambition. He'd been a junior accountant then, talking about promotions and a future together, but after he lost his job downsizing, he claimed he'd stopped looking for work and started looking for shortcuts. First, it was crypto scams that drained our savings. Then, it was investment opportunities with his shady high school buddies. Now, this. Gambling away borrowed money while I scrubbed plates to keep us afloat. I paced the apartment, the phone pressed to my ear, my free hand tugging at my hair. Jake, I don't have $2,000. I don't have $20. You know that. Why would you even? My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it. I didn't want him to hear my weakness, but the tears were already burning my eyes. You're my fiance. Lila, you're supposed to have my back. His tone was sharp, like I was the one betraying him. Just figure it out. Borrow from your sister again. Or, I don't know, sell something. This is serious. These guys aren't playing around. The nerve of him, demanding I fix his mess while he partied with his friends, hit me like a punch to the gut. I sank onto the couch, staring at the stack of unpaid bills on the coffee table. The final notice for the rent glared up at me, red ink screaming urgency. I'd been carrying us both for months, lying to my family, dodging calls from creditors, all to protect the man I thought I'd marry. And now he was stranded in Vegas, expecting me to save him from his own stupidity. Jake, I said, my voice low and steady now, you told me this trip was about bonding with your friends. You swore it was a one-time thing, that you'd be back Monday to start job hunting. And now you're telling me you gambled away money we don't have. And you're in trouble with loan sharks. They're not loan sharks, he muttered. But the quiver in his voice betrayed him. Just guys who expect to be paid. Look, I'll make it up to you. Okay, I'll get a job. I'll pay you back. Just get me out of this. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Pay me back with what? Jake, your dreams of hitting the jackpot, I've heard this before. Every time you mess up, it's the same story. I'll fix it. Lila, I'll make it right. But you never do. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could almost see him, slouched in some dingy casino chair, his charm replaced by desperation. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, but instead, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the weight of his choices, the way they chipped away at my trust, my love, my hope for us. "I'm not sending you the money," I said finally. The words felt like stones dropping into a still pond, rippling through the life we'd built. "You need to figure this out. Jake, I'm done bailing you out." "Lila, don't do this," he pleaded, his voice breaking. "You don't understand what's at stake here. These guys, no, you don't understand." I cut him off. "I've given everything to keep us together. My savings, my energy, my pride. And you've given me nothing but excuses. You want to go on your boys' trip. You want to gamble away our future. Fine, but you're doing it alone." I hung up before he could respond, my hands trembling as I set the phone down. The apartment was quiet, save for the faint hum of the fridge and the distant sound of traffic outside. For the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been carrying Jake's weight for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand on my own. The next few hours were a blur. I sat on the couch, staring at the bills, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to call him back, to find a way to fix this, to save him like I always had. But every time I reached for the phone, I saw the stack of notices, the empty bank account, the diner schedule that left me with blisters and no time to breathe. I saw the woman I'd become exhausted, resentful, invisible. By midnight, the phone buzzed again. A text from Jake. "I'm sorry, I messed up. Please, Lila, I need you." I stared at the words, waiting for the familiar tug of guilt to pull me back, but it didn't come. Instead, I felt anger white-hot and righteous. He didn't need me. He needed my money, my forgiveness, my willingness to clean up his messes, and I was done. The next morning, I called my sister, Emma, and told her everything. She listened quietly, her sighs heavy with the "I told you," so she was too kind to say out loud. "Lila, you deserve better," she said finally. "You've been holding up both of you for too long. Let him face the consequences." She was right, but the words still stung. Letting Jake face the consequences meant letting go of the future I'd imagined: a wedding, a home, a life where we were partners, not rescuer and rescued. But that future was a fantasy, built on promises he'd never kept. I spent the day packing his things, his clothes, his gaming console, the half-empty beer cans he'd left scattered around. Each item felt like a piece of the life I was reclaiming. When I found the engagement ring he'd given me, a cheap band he'd bought with my credit card, I slipped it off my finger and tucked it into his duffel bag. It wasn't a symbol of love anymore. It was a reminder of my own blindness. That evening, Jake called again. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was frantic, promising to change, to get help, to be the man I deserved. But I'd heard it all before, and the words rang hollow. I deleted the message and blocked his number. The next week was chaos. Jake's friends reached out, begging me to help him, claiming he was in real danger. I told them the truth: I had nothing left to give. Rumors swirled that he'd borrowed from the wrong people, that he was hiding out somewhere in Vegas, dodging threats. Part of me ached for him, for the man he'd been before laziness and greed took over. But that man was gone, and I couldn't keep chasing his ghost. I started small steps to rebuild. I picked up an extra shift at the diner, opened a new bank account in my name only, and met with a financial counselor to tackle the debt. Emma helped me find a therapist, someone to help me unpack the guilt and anger that had settled in my bones. It wasn't easy. Every night, I lay awake, second-guessing myself, wondering if I'd been too harsh, if I could have saved him. But then I'd remember the bills, the lies, the weight of his demands, and I'd remind myself I wasn't the one who broke us. Months later, I heard through a mutual friend that Jake had gotten out of Vegas, though not without scars. He'd taken a low-paying job at a warehouse, far from the glitz and glamour he'd chased. He'd tried calling me a few times from new numbers, but I never answered. I didn't hate him. I just didn't have room for him anymore. Looking back, I see now that Jake's trip wasn't just a weekend getaway. It was the final straw, the moment that forced me to choose myself over a sinking ship. I'd spent years believing love meant sacrifice, that loyalty meant carrying someone else's burdens. But love doesn't mean drowning so someone else can float. It means building something together. And Jake had never held up his end. I'm still rebuilding, piece by piece. The apartment is quieter now, but it's mine. The bills are still there, but I'm chipping away at them. And every day, I'm learning to trust myself again, to believe that I'm enough. Jake's choices cost him everything: his future, his pride, our love. But they gave me something back: the strength to walk away. What do you think? Was I right to let Jake face the consequences of his actions? Or should I have helped him one last time? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective on where the line between love and self-respect should be drawn.